Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review Kingsman, The Golden Circle. Now, going into this year, I was super excited about this film because the first Kingsman, the Secret Service film, was one of the biggest surprises for me back in 2015. Yeah. And I loved that film, and I thought it was fantastic, and I was super excited about them coming out with a sequel. And I'm a bit disappointed, but I still really like this film. Now, the first film I absolutely loved. This one I like very much, but it does have its flaws, and I'm going to talk about all of them during this review. Now, this was directed by Matthew Vaughan, who directed the first one, has done other films like Kick-Ass and X-Men First Class, Stardust, and I'm a big fan of Matthew Vaughn's, and I was super excited about what he could do with this film. I thought he did a good job of handling the story in terms of a directing standpoint, but I'll get to like the actual story when I talk about the writing. And in terms of the action sequences, I thought he did a pretty good job with being able to put together these action sequences, but the unfortunate thing is there's a really big over-reliance on CGI in this film, and it looks cartoony and a bit obnoxious, and that took me out of the film quite a bit, and that was really disappointing because if anybody's watched any of my reviews about any film with any kind of action in it, you know I'm a big snob when it comes to action and making it feel realistic and being able to see everything, and you're able to see everything in this, and it was staged really well. It's just the CGI looks really corny and over the top, and it kind of took me out of the film a bit. And there's points where it drags, and I don't know if that's necessarily pacing-wise or just lack of interest for some of the parts of the story that's going on, but a lot of the issues in this film does come down to the writing. And this film has a lot more of a sillier, zanier tone. It obviously still has its dark moments, but it's way more over the top, if believe it or not, than the first film. And I think that takes away from it a bit, but it also is less mean-spirited than the first, because there's some dark stuff that goes on in the first one. And some of the stuff, it's kind of jarring at times in terms of what it's trying to do, but there are moments of real emotion that really did hit me hard, and I really did enjoy those moments of the film because it really did make me feel connected to the characters. Now, the cinematographer, which is George Richmond, and there's some really cool shots in this film, and I know they achieved a lot of these like long takes through CGI, but the ideas behind a lot of the shots are really cool, and the cinematography was really well done. It's just the CGI didn't match what it was trying to do at a lot of points. Now when it comes down to the writing, Matthew Vaughan and Jane Goldman together wrote this film, and the story's just too overlong. This is 2 hours and 20 minutes. It doesn't need to be, and overly bloated because there's a lot of stuff being shoved in here, pushes some important things to the side, and tries to do too much. And honestly, they could have pulled this apart, really focused on some of the aspects in different films, and this could have been multiple films. They just tried too much, and it felt like we don't know how many sequels we're going to get. We really want to go with these ideas, and it was a little too overambitious. And the whole Harry issue, bringing back Colin Firth's character, was so dumb. Like, really dumb. And I'm just like, this is ridiculous. Why? I wish they would have, honestly, wouldn't have brought him back if I had the choice, but I wasn't paid to write this movie, and I haven't been paid to write any movies. I just do it for fun. But I would not have brought him back, or save that for a different story, or make that the main story. It just tried to balance too many things. And some of the characters are really strong. Eggsy's still great, Merlin's still great, but so many of the characters are completely wasted in this film. Jeff Bridges and Channing Tatum are barely in this, so like Champagne and Tequila, they're two cool characters. I would have wished I got to see more of them, but they're kind of sidelined. Pedro Pascal's character Whiskey I actually really enjoyed for the most part. I'm not going to spoil anything about the film, but there's some character choices that are made that I wasn't really a huge fan of. And some of the characters from the first one are kind of just like thrown away, and that was really disappointing. But there were some things that I really liked what they chose to do with this. I know there's controversy about the end of the first film, and looking at how Eggsy celebrated saving the world, and it's like really degrading to women, and they're a couple in this one, and like a legitimate couple. It's like, oh well, that's nice. I'm glad at least something came out of that, and not just some random sex at the end of the film making a joke about James Bond movies. But I did think the dialogue was really sharp and it was funny and I enjoyed it. The villain in this film felt so ridiculously over the top and didn't feel like a real person. Sorry, Julianne Moore, you tried your best, but there wasn't much for you to do with this one. And she pales a lot in comparison to Samuel L. Jackson's Valentine from the first film because he was fantastic. And he was goofy and over the top, but he still felt like a person. She did not. She felt like a caricature. And in terms of, it does hit some interesting themes, but it doesn't dig too deep. They take some stances on some political stuff that's really interesting, especially the war on drugs and how, honestly, ass backwards a lot of how it is handled. And they took that on head on in this film. And it would have been interesting if they went a little deeper than just hitting on it on a surface blatant level. And the composers Henry Jackman and Matthew Margeson, it's very triumphant and rousing, and the Kingsman score, like the theme from the first one's in it, and it really does elevate. The music choices are fantastic. I really enjoyed it, and honestly, it's not even a cameo. I was about to say the cameo by Elton John in this movie. He's a legitimate character in this film. And it's not a cameo, honestly. He's in it quite a bit, and I thought they used him and his music very well in this film, and he was one of the funnier, enjoyable parts of the film. And in terms of the acting, Taron Egerton is fantastic. I love him. I am looking forward to seeing him in more films. Mark Strong, Merlin's my favorite character in any of these films, and he proves why. He just keeps doing a great job. And Pedro Pascal, you go, sir. Now that you actually have something to like put a spotlight on you besides Game of Thrones, and he did a really fantastic job in this film. And everyone else did their jobs well for the most part, except I think Julianne Moore. She was having a lot of fun, and you can tell, but it felt really out of place, and I think it was the wrong direction to go. Now, my closing thoughts, my it factor of this film. Personally, this was a bit disappointing for me, but it was a fun and zanier time than the first one, and if you could stick it, I went at 9:30 at night, so movie starts around 9:50 because of credits, and I was dragging by the end of this 2 hour and 20-minute film, but overall, I really did enjoy Kingsman: The Golden Circle, and it probably sounds like I talked down this film quite a bit during this review, but it's because I'm a huge fan of this franchise now, and I'm going to give Kingsman: The Golden Circle a B.